normal person who had a normal job, a normal occupation. I come from the business world. I come from the world of law, real estate, and banking. And at a certain point, back in 2009, I got sick, a very serious physical illness that almost took me out. And as a result of that, I started asking myself questions about the meaning of life, about why that was happening to me. That's when I started to wonder if the illness had any emotional significance for me. In other words, not just getting sick because the body has some difficulty, but because an unresolved, unprocessed emotion was stuck inside. That's when I started asking myself those kinds of questions. So from that point on, I started studying and training myself in various disciplines related to this. Family constellations. I discovered Alejandro Jodorowsky, I discovered Antonio Blay, and finally I came across Enric Corvera's school, Biodecoding and Bioneuroemotion. And there indeed I realized that a whole series of knowledge had been compiled, mainly coming from Dr. Hammer at that time. That's not the case today, but back then illness did have an emotional origin. That was my starting point. A little earlier in my life, it's true that I had already experienced some, let's say, strange, unusual events. While I was working in banking, a series of phenomena had occurred in my house that could be described as poltergeist activity.
Poltergeist, before you continue, just to clarify for the audience, are you referring to experiences with spirits or supernatural experiences?
Poltergeist, here's an example. At home at night, you hear a pearl necklace drop onto a glass table, a very distinctive sound, right? And I can imagine it, but my house had no pearl necklace or glass table. Okay, do you understand those kinds of things? Or moving entire bookshelves full of books, moving them around, really powerful things, right? Later, others helped me with that since I was completely out of it and unaware of what was happening, but explaining further would take too long. Since you're asking where it all started and why I'm interested in Kabbalah and Hebrew and so on, curiosity is the first quality. I found it very curious when I had already finished my whole therapeutic journey, well, from studying constellations to Enric's school, or that whole journey that was so big, so powerful, and so deep that I had, at some point, I knew I had to find my own path, even though I didn't know what it would be. There came a time in my life around the age of 40, I'm 52 now, when I didn't know exactly which way to go. And then I had a dream. And in that dream, the answer was revealed to me. The dream went like this. A Hebrew rabbi with side curls and very sparkling blue eyes stands at the door of my house. He carries scrolls in his arms. The scrolls fall from his arms, a huge number of scrolls. He smiles at me, drops the scrolls, and leaves. And that's when I understood. That's when I realized what my path was. So from that moment on, that's when I started studying Kabbalah. That's when I started studying Hebrew and began studying the Torah. To my surprise, it was easy for me. Hebrew was surprisingly easy for me to learn. It was very familiar to me and I had no trouble. And I passed all my courses at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem with excellent grades. And I mean, I'm not saying this to brag. I just say it as an anecdotal fact about how easy Hebrew was for me, which isn't normal. It's a difficult language with hard declensions, a different alphabet, and it's written backwards, etc. Am I speaking on a grammatical level or a semantic level? And studying Kabbalah and Kabbalah itself. As soon as I start the first classes, I realize I already know those concepts well. I have an innate wisdom, so what I thought was that I was learning was actually that I was remembering something that was already inside me. And it was an incredible, impressive process. Of course, it was a very fast process because it was like an awakening of wisdom that already existed within me from other lives, experiences, and incarnations. If you'd like, we can also discuss reincarnation. And while I founded my school, I founded the Raúl Kabbalah School, or the Raúl Archetype School. And to my surprise, it was a success because I realized that there were a lot of people wanting to learn this knowledge and to go deeper into what I call the technology of reality. That is, this reality is made and constructed in a very particular way, which has a lot to do with computer programming. Now, if you want, we can get into that as well. Hebrew is fundamental, as is the language of quantum computing and this reality. It's how everything is programmed.
Wow, this is a bit much. Hearing about your experience and what led you there is incredible. I want to ask you a pretty simple question before we go a little deeper. We just touched on your origins. What led you there? You're ill? You haven't wanted to discuss it, so I won't ask. What is the Kabbalah? For viewers unfamiliar with it, what is Kabbalah?
Kabbalah literally comes from the Hebrew verb lekabel, ibere, which means to receive. That's the literal meaning. Now, Kabbalah means reception, the noun reception. Now, reception. What? Well, of knowledge, of wisdom. A wisdom that has been passed down since ancient times, very secretly from teacher to student. Thank you. It was guarded by the Jewish people, but not by all of the Jewish people, only by a very small part of the Jewish people, who are the Kabbalists. Not the rabbis. Not all rabbis know Kabbalah. In fact, some rabbis condemn Kabbalah. I mean, I really want to make this clear. The very small group that guards the wisdom of Kabbalah are the Kabbalists. And historically, this is a very small number, and it has been passed down from person to person, from teacher to student, until it reached our days, when there came a moment in the mid-1950s when a Rabbi Ashlag, a Kabbalist, a great Kabbalist, made the decision to open Kabbalah completely to the world. Because we are in what is called the era of the Mashiach, that is the era when the revelations must already be known. There should no longer be hidden knowledge. Everyone has the right to know how the technology of this reality works.
All right, tell me a little bit about El Hebreo. It's the language this reality is computed and programmed in, like the code it's written in. How do you give this to a person who is very rooted in this material world? Me, myself. I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's hard for me to put it into shape. Which reality and code are you referring to? Can you provide more background? Raúl.
We need to use similes to explain this more clearly. For instance, movies have provided some interesting similes. We have the movie The Matrix. I don't know if probably all the listeners know it.
My community is very close-knit, right?
Well, fantastic. In The Matrix, this is explained precisely from a cinematic point of view. But what it does is expose how, let's say, two realities exist. One is called the real world, the other is the Matrix world. Well, the world of the Matrix is programmed based on code, and that code, in fact, if you look at the little screens, they're very similar to Hebrew letters. That is, and actually the directors, because they changed their gender. The Wachowski sisters, brothers, yes. We'll get into that as well, because that's also very interesting. Well, they're Jewish. So, of course, there's a whole body of knowledge there that's being sold as negative priming, so that when the real truth is revealed to you, you reject it, thinking it's the real truth. They present it directly, so you realize through your own reasoning that this is true reality. Most people will just say, no, this is just movies. That's mostly the goal of cinema, the so-called negative priming. Oh, I don't know if you know Enrique, a close friend, and also yours, but
He's gonna come here. Yes, I owe Enrique a public apology, because it's true that I took a shot at him. Maybe I'm just not into what he talks about, but yes, Enrique is coming here, and honestly,
you're going to love him. You're going to love him. He's an exceptional guy, and he also has incredible merit, because he brings to the table in Castilian, in Spanish, the concept of negative priming, which is fundamental. I've done several interesting programs with him, including directly translating the Zohar from Aramaic myself, discussing powerful topics about reality technology. You'll love it. Well, I don't want to get off topic from what I was telling you. How is it that Hebrew is the computational code of this reality? Well, I gave you the example of the movie Matrix. We have an instruction manual for how this reality is computed. The instruction manual is called the Torah. The Torah. These are the first 5 books of the Bible, as they are commonly known. The Pentateuch, the correct Pentateuch, but in its original language, Hebrew. I don't know if you know, Jota, that the Torah is written on a parchment scroll. it's rolled up and placed somewhere. I mean, it's rolled up, placed, and kept safe. The synagogue on parchment, what happens if the person writing the Torah makes a mistake? Even a single letter, mistake, scratch, or stain leads to automatic rejection. That parchment is no longer valid. Why? Simply put, we're talking about code. If you enter a code and make a mistake in one character, the code is no longer valid.
Totally.
Now, this has been protected in the form of religious dogma, which, if it hadn't been protected that way in the form of religious dogma with which I do not agree with any dogma, but I understand that in order to protect it and bring it to this day, where we did have the analogies to be able to understand what is being talked about, the computer analogy, the computational analogy, it had to be done based on dogma, because there is no other way to bring that knowledge pure, intact, without a single character of the code changing up to our days.
I understand it.
I don't know if I'm making myself clear. It's a checkmate to the forces of evil that want to keep that code unknown. Because when you know that code, then you start being able to generate your own events in this world. That's the purpose of Kabbalah. To answer your question, what is Kabbalah for? So that you can create your own events in this world, so that your life is lighter, so that it's easier. Within the word Kabbalah in Hebrew is the word Kal. What Kabbalists do is look for words with different meanings within a word, with the same letters but rearranged and so on. So there's the word Kal, which means light, easy. So what is Kabbalah? It's something that makes your life easier, lighter. It doesn't mean that tough events won't keep happening to you. Life will keep putting challenges in front of you. Bad moments happen on their own. You don't need to find them. You have to seek out the good ones. But when challenges arise, you'll handle them more easily, because you have a knowledge that helps you understand how this reality works and that everything has a purpose. In Hebrew, it's said, everything is for good, even if it seems bad at first. So Kabbalah serves to, let's say, protect you from bad thoughts that make you fall into discouragement and make you lose faith. That you have a power in the world, but your power is simply the channeling through you of all the energy of the Creator. Life's only purpose is your happiness. That's Kabbalah.
Okay. What an answer, really. This is a topic that interests me a lot. And honestly, right now, the only thing I can think of is to ask you this question regarding everything you just told me. And it's the following.